And we are recording with longtime guest who has not been on recently because I'm a terrible friend and a terrible scheduler, and I have no shame and no respect for myself or others. Mr. Roger Williams, author of my favorite book, The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. And, I told everybody towards the end of last year, start getting the book, start ordering the book, or I'm going to make some moves happen and people are going to be punished. And you know what? I didn't want to draw attention to it, but I think I have to now to make an example out of it. The country with the lowest purchasing of Mopi per person in the world, Ukraine. I didn't want to fucking, I didn't want to do this. And I know that a lot of people are like, that's not, who's a big fan of it? Putin. Say what you will, but I deliver. I fucking deliver. Yeah. So order that book, buy it on Lulu, get the Kindle version. It doesn't matter. But unless you want artillery shelling your hometown, you will buy this book. And whereas I normally say this is not a threat, this is a threat. I will have the Red Army come crashing down. Well, no, I actually know that it's not a threat. I don't want like DHS to come after me, but
that's
Roger
over
Williams.
the top.
Yeah, little.
And you'll notice that I showed up in a not only a cool Tommy Carrigan design, but with patriotic Ukrainian colors too.
Oh, we've been supporting it since before it was cool. A lot of people didn't know that, but Roger and I saw the writing on the wall last year, and that's why we started preemptively wearing Ukrainian colors. So you have a thesis for this episode that I have not heard before, and I don't think anyone's proposed before. So Roger, with that, take it away, man.
Yeah, and I only actually thought of this a couple of days ago as a very serious thing. And so I kind of want to bounce it off of you. And I realize you have a couple of other regular guests that you might want to bounce it off of them once you hear what I have to suggest here. Sure. But I question whether Russia has any functional nuclear weapons at all. And I realize this sounds wacky. Because surely they have thousands, right? As a matter of fact, according to Wikipedia, they have 4,500, 1,500 active deployed, 3,000 on standby reserve. And while that's not nearly as much as the USSR had at its peak, that's still enough to seriously ruin your day, right? And the thing is, I've had a bit of skepticism about Russia's nuclear arsenal for 10 or 15 years now, because all nuclear weapons have a shelf life. People don't really realize this. It's not something that the nuclear powers like to publicize, but all nuclear weapons have components that are made of radioisotopes that decay. So they're not like bullets or conventional chemical artillery shells that you can wrap in, grease paper and put away for 50 years and expect them to work when you come back and retrieve them. That isn't the way that it works. The original Fat Man and Little Boy, the fissionable material, everyone gets focused on that. You think of, well, that's the price of weapons grade plutonium. Weapons grade plutonium is actually pretty cheap nowadays. We've made a fuckload of it, way more than anybody needs, and it has a half-life of tens of thousands of years. So it isn't going away anytime soon. Probably the best thing that will end up happening to all that shit is we'll burn it in nuclear reactors to make energy without putting carbon in the atmosphere. Now, the thing is, the original Fat Man and Little Boy had initiators. The thing about nuclear weapons is most people have heard that you start with a non-critical mass because you don't want it to blow up in your face while you're loading it onto the airplane or whatever. And when you get ready for it to go kaboom, you have to assemble it into a critical mass. And you have to do that very quickly so that it doesn't pre-detonate. The mechanisms that can assemble an atomic bomb quickly enough to not pre-detonate also tend to disassemble it real quickly if the nuclear explosion doesn't occur. So you've got a fraction of a second, literally like a millisecond or two, where you have to make sure that a neutron shows up to start the chain reaction. The thing that does that is the initiator. And it is a surprisingly difficult thing to do. Batman and Little Boy both used initiators that worked by combining beryllium, which is stable, with polonium-210, Vladimir Putin's favorite tea flavor. And
Shots fired.
and
It's not
the
chamomile. It's not chamomile.
yeah, and the polonium would induce the beryllium. Yeah, the polonium emits a crapload of gamma rays. It would induce the beryllium to emit neutrons, and that would give you half a dozen or so neutrons in the time that was necessary for the reaction to start. Polonium has a half-life of 140 days for that isotope, polonium-210. So it was a big deal in the early post-war years of our atomic arsenal to have enough plutonium and to have a supply line making new initiators. And you would have to disassemble the bomb because those initiators are at the very center of the spherical implosion sphere. Otherwise, they wouldn't work. Or you're depending on a stray cosmic ray to start your chain reaction of your multi-$100,000 bomb during the fraction of a second when it can start. So there a lot of work goes into initiators. Well, modern bombs don't do that anymore. They realized that was untenable. And so modern bombs use an external initiator, which is a vacuum tube. It's a particle accelerator, and it causes fusion in a small sample of deuterium and tritium, and that creates the neutrons. The tritium is a problem, but not as big of a problem because it has a half-life of 12 years. And you don't need a lot of it in the initiator, but where you do need a lot of it in a modern atomic bomb is in the fission core itself. Because Fat Man was 5 feet across and weighed 10,000 pounds. About half of that was the casing. So without too much work, you could pare that down to maybe 4 feet across and 4,000 or 5,000 pounds. But that's still to get a 20 kiloton explosion. That's not practical for anything that flies, not in modern terms. It's not practical as a battlefield weapon because it's too big and unwieldy. All, and by all, I mean literally all, there's no exceptions. All modern nuclear weapons are boosted with tritium gas. What this does is Fat Man and Little Boy had solid cores. We've all seen pictures of them in the movies. It's about they weigh 50 pounds, which if they were made of iron would mean they would be about that big. But since they are made of plutonium, they're about that big because plutonium is so dense. But they were solid balls, 2 hemispheres. In fact, it was actually 3 segments because there were the 2 hemispheres, and then there's a middle segment that had room for the initiator, which is kind of important in Batman. Well, modern bombs have what are called levitated cores. They're hollow. They have a hollow sphere of fissionable material, and at the center of that hollow sphere is a nugget, a little like walnut-sized sphere of fissionable material that is suspended by wires. And the idea is that when it implodes, the outer sphere rams into the inner sphere with momentum. One of the atomic scientists said, I can illustrate it like this. How do you get something to move? Do you push on it or do you hit it?
Hammer.
Okay, so modern atomic cores hammer the center. In fact, a lot of them are mixed isotope. They have plutonium outer spheres and uranium-235 inner for reasons that make sense to the atomic scientists. But to make the bomb small, they are also boosted. That hollow space is filled with tritium gas. And when the implosion occurs, the tritium fusions, which creates a shitload of neutrons. And that means instead of introducing a neutron to start the chain reaction, which then takes 80 generations, you create billions of neutrons that start chain reactions all over the place. And so instead of 80 generations, you may only have 50 that are necessary to completely consume the fissionables in the core. So it's faster. This has advantages for hydrogen bombs because hydrogen bombs depend on using the initial gamma ray pulse
before it can be ripped apart.
before the actual explosion arrives and blows apart the secondary part of the bomb. And for tactical weapons, it's critical for making it smaller, just because, if you want to put an atomic bomb in a bowling ball case, then it requires a lot of tritium. Now, tritium, everybody seems to agree. I've seen numerous sources, and presumably because if you know enough physics, it's an easy bit of math to work out. You need 3 or 4 grams of tritium to boost an atomic bomb this size. Tritium costs $30,000 a gram. It is one of the most expensive materials by weight in existence. Now, a lot of the details of how atomic weapons are serviced are very highly classified secrets. But it doesn't take a lot of math to figure out that in order to keep your fleet of atomic weapons atomic, you need about 0.2 of a gram of new tritium per year, per bomb. If you have 4,500 weapons, that's a lot of tritium. I've worked this out, whereas it's like it's around
1250 new grams.
It works out to about $100 million a year if you're Russia and you have a fleet of 4,500 weapons. And the thing about those reserve bombs that aren't on active duty is you still have to service them. Otherwise, they're not atomic weapons. If you don't have the tritium. Now, even if you're not putting the tritium in the bombs, if you're holding it in reserve, you still have to have it. Otherwise, you can't make them work. They're not atomic bombs. So this is a recurring cost to have a nuclear arsenal of this size. I mean, most people don't realize that if you wanted to have an atomic bomb in your garage, like so many people do fantasize about, it's fucking expensive. Now, $100 million is a lot of money. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, the modern state of Russia has had to spend around $2 billion to remain a nuclear power. Now, this got me wondering whether that money has really been spent and whether the maintenance has really been done. Because
how would anyone know?
Well, and yes, because how do you find out that none of the bombs work?
Well, how do you call their bluff? Nuclear war.
Yeah. Well, the only circumstance under which you would use a mutual assured destruction MAD deterrent is if it already failed and didn't do its job and it didn't deter somebody. And Russia's nuclear system is built from the ground up on the precepts of MAD. Their version of the nuclear football isn't even enabled until an early warning system detects some sign of a nuclear attack incoming. So now, personally, I have a feeling that this may be the reason for the attacks on the nuclear reactors in Ukraine. I have a feeling that Vlad may have been wanting to set up a pretext to fool the early warning system by showing a radiation signature that would give him a pretext for using his own nuclear arsenal. But that's a kind of a side argument to what I'm doing here. If you are the general who is contemplating this theft of stealing the money, the money for the servicing of the bombs, the only circumstance in which you expect to be caught is if the world has already ended anyway. That would be the only circumstance these weapons are supposed to be used. And at that point, it doesn't matter anymore. The only way you're going to be in front of a firing squad is if there's someone left to man the firing squad.
Exactly.
So to me, it's like you're talking about 2 or 3 super yachts there.
And They could kind of be doing a service to humanity.
Yeah, well, they're not doing a service to humanity. They're fun. They're upgrading from mahogany to teak on
I
their super yacht.
I don't mean to say that that's their intention, but if two nuclear powers went to war and we launched all of ours and they couldn't launch theirs, I'm not saying that's why they
Well,
did it, but they're kind of alternatively, like I'm sure Hitler recycled a couple times, like it's it's
and it might have even started out as, well, we don't need all of these,
sure.
but but
And just
you gotta think of, all right, that's the macro case as I think of it. All right, let's look at the micro case. What does it take to divert this? Uh, if Russia is maintaining all of their bombs and the service interval is 10 years, it might be shorter. It's probably not longer, because to make it longer, you would have to really overcharge with tritium. Say it's 10 years. Okay, that means at the end of 10 years, you have to still have 3 or 4 grams of tritium in the bomb after a half-life of tritium, which means you're probably putting something like 8 grams of tritium in the bomb to charge it. So you're looking at 2 bombs a day at a 10-year schedule to just completely service the fleet. I can believe that a team does a bomb a day, maybe
sure.
even two, but I don't see why it would take more than one day once you have the bomb removed from the missile and all. And let's face it, most of them are in reserve. Your team probably has no more than 4 guys. These things are small, so there's no point in having a 10-man team when you can't get 10 people around something the size of a bowling ball.
Yeah.
So they show up, say 4 guys show up with a canister the size of a pop bottle that's worth $250,000 because it contains 8 grams of tritium twice a day for 20 years. You tell me how believable it is in a country that has been feeding its troops MREs that expired in 2015 and driving around on cheap knockoff Chinese tires that haven't even been driven around to exercise them to keep the rubber flexible. How likely is it that those teams have not been corrupted?
I mean, Russia is like the poster child
Yeah.
for corruption.
Now, it's not only those teams. So you've got, how many teams do you have if they take breaks? Maybe you have 3 or 4. These are very highly specialized people. They have the highest security clearance in existence. They're
I've had some of the US ones on.
Yes. Okay. So there's not a lot of these guys. And so you wouldn't have to corrupt very many people to affect this. Now, the other thing is when you service the bomb, you're taking the old gas out, which is now a lot of helium-3 mixed in with the tritium that's left after it has decayed. Now, that goes back to a lab to be reprocessed. This is what the United States has been doing ever since the 70s, when we shut down our last reactor that was making, now it was the early 80s, I think, where we shut down. We only had one reactor that was specialized to make tritium gas in large quantities, and it was at Oak Ridge and it didn't have a containment building. So they finally realized that running that reactor was not a good idea. But what they've been doing, since we've been shrinking the size of the arsenal anyway, is taking the tritium out of the old warheads and refining it and purifying it and then using it as to recharge the new ones. That is very easy. It doesn't require a big lab because helium and hydrogen are chemically different. You just burn the hydrogen, it makes tritiated water, then you let the helium dissipate, and then you take the tritiated water and you just electrolyze it back into hydrogen and oxygen, and boom, you've got pure tritium again for put in the next bomb. Now, the lab guys, if you've been doing this over and over again, the lab guys were eventually going to realize that there's no tritium in the gas that you're pulling out of the bombs either. So they have to be bought off. But again, that can be a fairly small lab. That's not something that requires an Oak Ridge scale operation. So you can probably count the number of people who would actually have to be corrupted to pull this off on your fingers. Uh, at worst, you might have to use a couple of toes too. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not a big operation, and it's $1 billion a year operation.
Yeah.
That can really put some nice fucking handles on the stuff in your yacht, you know. Um,
And you'd only need like to have at least like a couple working tacticals to like throwing out at Ukraine or something, just to be like, we're crazy enough to do it and they work. Who's going to want to call that bluff and go, let's launch
right.
everything?
If you even still have those,
You would need, I feel
because
like you would want like, you'd want to be able to flex with one actual explosion. I feel like you'd want at least one.
the way that I think that it would evolve, though, you got to remember this has been going on for 25 years.
Yeah. Might just be so
Yes,
rampant.
at first, yeah, you're going to say, well, we don't need this many bombs. But every time that team of guys walks in the room to service a bomb, it's $250,000. I mean, and you got to think about that too. Those tactical nukes, they're not any cheaper just because they're smaller. They're
Yeah.
boosted atomic warheads. They're just as expensive to keep working. And that's something you don't expect to use for other reasons. So you reach a point, it's been 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Is it even worth keeping these? Yeah, it's like, why bother? That's another $250,000 that you could use to buy your wife an even bigger diamond. So, at what point, do you stop? I mean, it's been, I think, demonstrated very aptly that nobody knew when to stop, because I've seen numerous people say one of the main reasons the Soviet advance has stalled. In fact, people are starting to say that it has failed,
Oh, yeah.
that they have lost.
Oh, 100%.
And a lot of it is due to the material not being there or not being current and effective and serviced properly. So you reach a point where nobody, cares anymore. Everyone has kind of forgotten that this might be a possibility, and nobody is bothered to tell Vlad. So he thinks he has a world-class army and a nuclear fleet. But
Which is really all you need is for him to think that.
yeah, well, if you think about it, a mad deterrent is just as effective if everyone believes that it's there as if it
Exactly.
really is there.
Exactly. If you had Putin in on it, he would act differently. Even if he trained himself, you would want him to truly believe that
Yeah.
like the bullets in his gun work and they're not blanks, right?
Hmm.
Fuck.
It's like the whole thing is the fucking Wizard of Oz.
But it doesn't matter because if it works, if it keeps everyone on their toes, right? I mean, the MX missile system was going to be that we were moving missiles around nonstop, and you never knew. Even the guys operating the silos would never know if they had a dummy or a functional
Hmm.
one. And the idea was so that the Soviets couldn't possibly nuke every silo we had.
Yeah. But then why bother to maintain any of them?
Yeah.
Now, personally, I suspect ours are active and functional, because the way that our grifters have always worked the system is that they actually do the work, but they
They
overcharge for it.
overcharge. It's a different kind of grift. It's the
Yes.
American. It's the American grift. We'll give you the tank. The tank will fucking work, but it's
Yeah.
going to cost you 5 tanks.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have some faith that our atomic weapons actually would blow up if you ask them to. But given what we've seen of the Russian military in the last 3 weeks, I am I find it impossible to believe the same of theirs. I'm looking at how these guys, because this is all at a very high level.
Yeah.
So, and they don't have any mid-level people who have enough power to act as a check.
Yeah.
All of their power is at the top. It's like, this is another one of the weaknesses of their militaries. They have no like NCOs and mid-level commanders who have any kind of authority.
Sure.
So again, if a top general who is in charge of the nuclear program has decided, fuck, I like Putin's yacht, I want one like that too. There's a bunch of money sitting right here on the table that I am supposed to spend on a system that can't ever be used.
Yeah.
Am I just going to go, all right, I'm patriotic. I'm going to spend this money on the thing that can't ever be used? Or am I going to say, damn it, I think teak looks good for a
They
yacht?
don't spend money on the shit that is used.
No.
It,
So
yeah, it's the bank vault going, do we really need gold bars or do we just need tungsten bars with a little gold leaf?
yeah. Or do we even need gold bars at all?
Yeah.
Does anybody ever go in there?
Oh fuck no, no one's allowed to come in here. No one's allowed to come in here. You can't come see it. Trust us, it's there, but you can't come see it.
And and the thing is, it wouldn't matter, and it wouldn't be. I mean, it's like I would never, if I was a Western leader, I would never test this idea by launching a first strike, just
No.
in case, because of the consequences. But what we've got right now is because everything else has gone so badly for Vladimir. Now he's rattling his nuke and saying, yeah, you guys give these guys too much help against us, and then we'll wheel out the nukes. Well, I'm looking at this and going, frankly, if I was a Western leader, my inclination at this point would be, all right, show me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that's not adding. He did use the, what was it, yesterday or the day before, allegedly the Kinzhal, Kinzal, a MiG launched hypersonic weapon.
Yeah,
Goes
they
up
were
to,
really bragging about that.
yeah, I saw the videos and I'm I'm at a point now where I just don't believe anything I see. So I'm like, okay, I don't even know if that's
Yeah.
real. Apparently it goes Mach 10. Apparently the United States doesn't have any hypersonic weapons. Now the Kinzhal supposed to go Mach 10. The Chinese Dongfang 14, I think, goes Mach 10 or 11. We don't have one, but we did test the HTV-2 Falcon in summer 2008, which reached a lowly Mach 20. And then I guess apparently we just never went further with that, which is
Well,
totally believable, right?
when your enemy is Ukraine, what the fuck uses a hypersonic missile?
Well, you're flexing on NATO.
Yeah.
It's us
Well,
dropping a nuke on Hiroshima, not because we want to, but because we're showing the Soviets we have it. That's what I think it is. You
yeah.
use a hypersonic because you're flexing nuts at Brussels.
So yeah, well, and the thing is though, if you're using a weapon that sophisticated, assuming you can build them at all and make them work
It's probably
to
had one,
deliver, yeah, to deliver conventional explosives,
not
then
even a
that's
nuke,
then that's a waste.
unless they
Uh,
used one as a hypersonic shot across the back.
yeah, well, and of course the Ukrainians are just going like, well, that wasn't all that different from any other missile we've seen. It was a missile. It dropped a bomb in the middle of our city, which is what they do.
They do with
You know,
artillery from 1900.
yeah, I mean, you can't, it's very difficult to stop even a normal missile, and
Yeah.
so it's like you're just, yeah, you're in a dick waving contest, and you're not really even getting any advantage from the fact that you got a bigger heart on, because who cares? That it's, they don't have, Ukraine doesn't have Patriot missiles or anything. They can't shoot down a normal missile.
Yeah.
But there's a limit to how many of these fucking things you can build, because even one of the normal missiles is over $1 million.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money to spend to knock down basically one building, which is about what you can do with one of these things,
If
uh, with conventional explosives.
Yeah, he did because they didn't even use a nuke. They used it as like
Yeah.
it hit like a barracks, which is no different. Again, I get the idea of using a hypersonic missile as a flex on NATO, sure. But I mean, if he doesn't start consistently using them, now it's going to look like all it was a flex. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
consider, again,
Well,
saying this as an armchair general. Like,
and besides, too, everybody knows that they have intermediate range ballistic missiles.
yeah,
Everybody in the fucking world has intermediate range ballistic missiles. That's what you would use against NATO. You don't need hypersonic missiles for NATO.
yeah, because the second you used a hypersonic and we went, oh, you're right, we can't intercept that, we would just use
Yeah.
an intermediate.
Yeah, and guess what? When an intermediate re-enters, you know what it is? You know how fast it's going?
Hyper
It's
fucking sonic.
hypersonic.
It's sure it's ballistic, but it's not even hyper. It's high
Yeah,
hypersonic. It's re-entry. It's Mach 23
yeah.
hypersonic.
The only advantage you get from the ground hugging hypersonic
Early
missile,
evasion, terminal guidance.
no, the radar can't catch it because it's below the radar.
Yeah,
Um,
which
but it
will
doesn't matter if the radar catches the intermediate range missile or not anyway, because
yeah
you
the
can't shoot it down.
yeah
It's like,
yeah the hypersonic
oh,
is you
here
can't
it comes.
yeah the hypersonic is Roger shooting me with a silent sniper rifle. I didn't hear it and I'm dead. What what a ballistic is me seeing Dale coming at me with a knife. I can see it. Good luck. You know? Hey, look, you're correct. There's Dale with a knife. Now what?
I'm so dead.
Yeah, good thing I can see it. It's and I like it's not to make light of it, kind of is, but it's not to make light of it. It's because, but this is kind of what solidified mutual assured destruction so long ago. Was sure, even if you have hypersonic, even if you have, was it Project Blue Rooster or whatever the fuck it was called, or we're gonna bury them all around England, nuclear. What it eventually comes down to is there will be a spectacular buildup of these weapons until eventually everyone just goes, all right, they enter the cheat code. And you just fire the ICBMs, which you can fire from your backyard. And in
Mhm.
30 minutes, they're going to come down near vertical in a shotgun formation, each with 9 megaton warheads coming in at Mach 23. And that's one missile. So it's like, yeah, sure, hypersonics. But I mean,
It's a
if it,
very special case weapon, and it's not a case that you have in Ukraine at the moment. So, I mean, I really that's almost like a desperate reach into the back
a
grab.
little, you're
Oh,
right.
here's a tool.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, look at my dick. Look at my dick. And it's like, dude, you're 5 minutes into the first date. Like, just small talk. Small talk. You don't need a, oh, I have sex. I smash pussy. It's like, dude, just buy her an appetizer. You know, it's, yeah, it is. It almost maybe seems like, could this, and again, Roger and I,
well,
as armchair generals, could it be like, is this the sign of maybe like
desperation.
well, not only that, what about like an internal coup or like a passive coup where,
Yeah.
hey, we're not letting you touch the goodies.
Well, who's going to tell Vlad that even if he gets his hands on the football, and even if he gets it enabled by bypassing the early detection system, that the none of the nukes will actually explode?
What if that's what the Kinzhal was? What if it was nuke tipped and it
If it
didn't
was
fucking,
supposed to be a nuclear weapon,
and
well,
no one know, and no one fucking knows?
well, they would probably figure it out pretty quickly,
The
because it would
cloud.
still, yeah. No, well, now you don't have a very big radiological spread, because that's the thing, is that when once the nuke stops working, because it doesn't ever go critical, it's not even a very good conventional explosive,
Oh,
because
it's like
one of the
it's
things,
like dynamite.
yeah, it's like, well, it's like about 10 pounds of TNT.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now Fat Man had like hundreds of pounds of explosive, but one of the things that you get with the boosting is you don't have to compress it quite as much, so you don't need as much conventional explosive. And everything about these is about weight, because they're all delivered by air. So that is a big thing. So you have, now 10 pounds of TNT, especially if it's a dirty bomb, because it's going to spread plutonium. That's not good, but it's probably only going to knock down one building, if that. And it's not going to spread the plutonium very far. So you're going to have maybe a couple 100 meters radiological zone that will have to be cleaned up. But it's not, let's face it, if that bomb worked and it was 200 kilotons, which is about standard nowadays for MERV reentry vehicle, then it would knock down it would dig a 10-mile diameter hole in the middle of your city.
Yeah.
So there's a serious difference there.
You
Now,
couldn't mistake
if
it for anything else.
no, and even if you wanted to say it's tactical, and we just wanted to show you that we got nukes, but you didn't actually, because it didn't go nuclear, you would have got 10 kilotons, and we saw what that did at Hiroshima. So you would have noticed it. Uh, Also, anyone in their right mind really doesn't want to do ground bursts if they can avoid it, because that kicks up all kinds of fallout. And Russia is a lot closer to that than we are.
Hmm.
So, uh, so that was it was a very strange and stupid thing to do, no matter how you parse it. It's like, if it was supposed to be nuclear, and it turns out I'm right, none of the nuclear weapons work anymore over there, then it was still a stupid thing to have tried, even if the nuclear weapon had worked.
Yeah, it's not all at. What if that's why they were firing at the nuclear power plant?
That
Maybe
what
to try to cover up a radioactive signature of like some bombs that were supposed to be nuclear, and they went off, and they're like, "Fuck, we gotta hide it now."
Well, my thought was, when in during the first week of the war, I read an article that explained how Russia's command and control system works, and the nuclear football, which there are three people who have the codes in Russia, two of whom have to enter an agreeing order in order to trigger a launch, but none of them work until the early warning system, which is completely independent,
Yeah, dead
signals
hand.
an incoming attack that has to be nuclear. So presumably they have detector, the radar systems for incoming ballistic missiles, but they also probably have radiation detectors. And the attacks on the nuclear reactors may have been to try and fool the early warning system into enabling the footballs, because of there was a detected nuclear attack. Uh, Now, that, because otherwise, why the fuck do that? It doesn't make
Well,
any sense.
I was the only hole I can look at with your theory is from the dead hand. Uh, there are two other sensors that also have to be met, and it's pressure, it's overpressure. So there has to be a fucking monster explosion. And much like the light from an A bomb, their tectonic like signature
Yeah.
is also very unique. And I don't know if you have to hit one or all of the signatures, but let's just
Well, and
theoretically,
again, that's a very highly classified secret of the Soviet defense system.
yeah.
So, yeah, we don't know exactly what their criteria are, because if we did, then it would be a weakness that we could exploit by trying to here. Now, Vlad presumably knows people who do know what the weaknesses are. So, the thing is, why else attack fucking Chernobyl?
I think let's play this out. Maybe you drop a tactical to try to set off the nuclear football, and when that didn't work, they have to cover up the embarrassment of that, which is also a strategic secret they would want to cover up, that our nukes don't work, and then you'd shell Chernobyl to make it go, that's where the radiation came from.
Yeah, but the thing is, one of the first things they did in the early days of the war was they occupied Chernobyl.
Yeah,
Why?
it's not adding up.
And then they started shelling another nuclear reactor that's actually closer to Russia.
Yeah, it's not adding up. Because if you want to set off the dead hand and get approved, I think you have to have like radiation, overpressure, and tectonic signature, which would be the case for maybe dropping a tactical really close to your border. But if that didn't
Mhm.
work, you would then need to immediately cover up your impotence. And part of that would include we have to create a new source of radiation, right? And maybe that's the shelling.
I mean, presumably they weren't thinking of using tactical nukes that early, but maybe they were taking a long view. I mean, I don't know. It's like you said, there's a lot that about this that doesn't add up, but uh the thing about the nukes is, like, Putin has been acting like he believes that the nuclear fleet is there and
Yeah.
ready to be used. But he also obviously believed that the army was in much better shape than it is, because he sent them to invade a country. And in fact, I've seen a couple, on the left wing site, Daily Kos, there are a couple of military guys who have been doing regular columns, and saying that they've really split up their forces. They have like 4 main prongs, and then each of those has split up into multiple pincers. And when you look at how thinly they've deployed their forces, it doesn't make very good sense. And that's one of the reasons why one of these other entities has basically said they've lost the first phase of the war. And what makes sense now is that they should simply withdraw and come up with a new plan, because this one didn't work. But instead, they're trying to shore up their forces that are being lost and replace the materiel that's being lost. I saw an interesting thing earlier today which said that Ukraine has actually acquired more tanks
Yeah.
from Russia than they've lost in combat.
Oh yeah, there are those like there's like Russian or there's like Ukrainian PSAs on TikTok now on how to like start up a
Yeah,
Russian tank. It's
yeah.
girls doing a dance. They're like, number one, find the keys. Number two, like
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. Like
how to
really.
drive an APC, and that. So, but that they've actually acquired more functional tanks by capturing them or because they were abandoned than they've lost in combat, uh, to the Russian forces. And that's pretty fucking embarrassing. I
That's
mean, that's
insane. That's insane. Now, what if we know that like the nukes are impotent?
that is a very interesting question, because as soon as I
I
put all of what happened with this on my end is like I said, I've had this in the back of my mind for years now, and I happened to mention it on a comment on Daily Kos, and I had a couple of responses, and so I fleshed it out a little, and then night before last, I decided to put the numbers to it. And I looked up. First thing I found out is that tritium is $30,000 a gram. I'm like, holy fucking shit.
yeah.
And then I worked out how much they would be needing and what the intervals were. And I was like, no, if this is how this is having to be done, I don't see any way in hell that it hasn't been grifted by this point, because everything else everything else has. Uh, so, and it's just too meaty and tempting and easy a target. This doesn't require corrupting that many people. And it's just like, and it's going to what any sane person would think is a black hole, where, it doesn't do any good anyway. So where's the badness of intercepting this stuff? It's like, it's not like it does us any good. It doesn't defend the country. It's just uh, part of the Magic Lantern show or something, where we're, you know, dick waving for the Americans. But if there ever is an attack and we have to launch this shit, it doesn't matter whether it works because it's already failed. So yeah, okay. So you end up in front of a firing squad because someone figures out that you did it. By that time, is there anybody to man the firing squad because a rain of missiles has come down? That's the way they're going to look at this. Now, it may turn out a little different from that because it's gone so badly, and Vladimir may do something as stupid as ordering a first strike with a battlefield nuke, but those aren't going to work either. I mean, I'm thinking about, in the early years of the grift, they may have left some working because
Just by numbers, yeah.
Yeah, but as the years go by, why not just take the rest? It's obviously not being used. It's just money sitting there on the table, waiting to be picked up. Why not pick it up? These guys have stolen everything else that isn't nailed down, and they've pried up a lot of the stuff that was and stolen it too.
Yeah.
So I don't see any circumstance after over 20 years where this hasn't been thoroughly corrupted, and now it's just Potemkin maintenance.
If it was like 1995 right now, I would
Different,
maybe not feel too comfortable with.
different story, yes.
But 2022, and yeah, it's such a gamble for other powers to assume they don't work that for all intents and purposes, no one's going to call your bluff.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have intelligence sources in the Pentagon saying, look, we don't think they've been servicing their nukes, none of them will probably explode anymore.
Yeah. How much are you going to gamble on? Because the only gamble would
Right.
be global thermonuclear Armageddon.
Yeah. So do you act on that? No, probably not. Now, of course, this was all, there's before Ukraine and after Ukraine as it stands now. Um, and
We,
we would, yeah, I mean, there's still no point doing like a massive first strike. Here, the worry is more like whether we need to be all that worried about Vlad rattling his "we'll do a battlefield nuke"
attack,
thing.
yeah.
And I tend to think you may be on a point there that that hypersonic missile, maybe that was supposed to have a nuclear tip.
Which
And right now, maybe somebody is standing at the other end of a 3 mile long table from Vlad trying to explain why it wasn't a nuclear explosion.
they've already been shot and fed to sharks. Now, not a 3 mile long table, yeah. But now think, what if somehow we did know that beyond a reasonable doubt that like not just 95%, but 100%. Hell, fuck it. Let's say the CIA engineered it. Let's say we bought off the oligarchs. If we knew they did, then there would be no point in throwing. So on one side, you can say the U.S. doesn't go there and get involved because escalation is the end of the world. On the other half, you go, we know they don't work. Let's watch them stamp around and
Mhm.
show everyone that. Just
They
let them
also
totally
don't have a
embarrass
they also
themselves.
don't have a conventional military anymore either. And
Let them fuck like a child with like it's throwing a like a temper tantrum, or somebody in the passenger seat with like a fake steering wheel. Just let them fucking.
I mean, I think the bigger thing right now may be that we may know, particularly after the last 3 weeks, maybe the other members of NATO aren't quite so sure.
Okay.
Because that there's because like you said, the stakes are infinite. So being wrong 0.1% of the time is not acceptable here.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's going to become really fucking obvious that they ain't got it. And at that point, Russia ceases to be a world power in any sense of the word.
You you know whose fingerprints I kind of see on this though? Fucking Trump. Hear me out. How else? Maybe he thought he was going to win, and maybe this was planned. How else do you convince NATO that they need to start paying their fair share? And who's fucking? I mean, I like him, but at the same time, who's fucking crazy enough to do it? That this is something Trump would do, and I'm not even defending it, but like push forward. Hey, Vlad, invade this. We'll do a bunch of virtue signaling, kind of sanctioning. And full disclosure, I don't support this at all. I'm saying this is an insult to Trump. This is absolutely like a Trumpian move. How to get NATO to shore up their own defenses, and then the U.S. hold
Oh,
back. Maybe this is a plan coming to fruition that maybe the generals were like, we will hold on to this one. And mind you, let me emphasize again, none of this is a compliment. It's fucking
no.
retarded.
I mean, I don't see any sense in which Trump wanted to make NATO stronger. I think he
Well,
actually
saying
would have,
that we don't want to.
yeah,
Well, I mean, saying that the U.S. doesn't want to pay anymore. That's what I mean.
yeah.
Scaring the titties off you.
But the thing is, it's almost that the purpose of NATO is almost evaporates if it turns out that Russia's a paper tiger too.
Which is another, yeah, that's an even further move.
So do we keep NATO together in case China does something, or because I don't think that Russia could assemble a fleet of nuclear weapons like what it has today if it had to do it from scratch. I don't think they have the resources.
Oh,
That was the Soviet Union, and that they had, back when it was the USSR, they had vastly more resources and better controls against the theft and stuff like that. I mean, there was a lot of corruption, but it wasn't the outright anything goes kleptocracy that is ruling today.
yeah,
Uh,
it was corrupt, but there was also some KGB strong hands in there.
yeah. Well, and also they also all had a really strong belief that the nuclear arsenal was incredibly necessary, and they threw
Sure.
vast resources at it, and they were completely serious that it had to be a serious threat in order to defend them. They they really believed in this shit. And I think that the current guys only believe that teak looks better than mahogany on their super yacht. So,
And haven't all the oligarchs been fleeing?
yeah, well, I mean, there's yachts have been getting seized out from under them, and
Are they fleeing because they fear nuclear war? Because there's nowhere to flee to with nuclear war, or are they fleeing because, oh my god, the tritium, the tritium scandal?
well, I mean, there's a variety of things that they're the whole order is falling apart, and so different ones probably have different reasons for fearing for their lives. Um, Mainly because Putin is about to turn into Stalin Mark II and start executing people because everything went so horribly wrong.
Unless they remove him. What if fucking wild card? What if Ukraine ends up invading Russia and taking all of Russia or some shit? No one saw that coming. Ukraine becomes the largest country by landmass overnight.
Yeah, and with Zelensky as its president.
Oh yeah.
And who saw that? Who saw this? Like, no one knew who Vladimir Zelensky was 3 weeks ago, and now he's like the fucking American president from Independence Day up there. It's like, what? When was the last American president that you could see grabbing an M16 and a flak jacket and saying, "I don't need to ride out of here. I need ammo," as the enemy is bearing down on him?
Eisenhower, best case scenario, but even
Yeah.
he never saw combat. Maybe Teddy. Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy, yes.
Teddy would have done it with a fucking sword. Yeah.
Teddy would have done it for fun.
Yeah, Teddy would have done it for Teddy would have done it against advisement. Yeah. Truman was a little insane. Truman couldn't see the eye exam to go into World War One. And so he went up close and memorized it just so he could go see fight, just so he could go see action. That's a crazy man. Yeah,
But I mean, this is a person that people all over the world, even who are not Ukrainian, are seeing as a hero. I mean, he is like, I wish my president was like that.
Let's look at Dale always says, right? You know, people are pointing fun at him and they're like, he was an actor 3 years ago. And I'm like, hey, well, half the country was just behind and yours truly was just behind a reality TV star. So to me, that's not a disqualifying thing. But second of all, what does Dale always say? Dale always says, you'll always be surprised at who steps up. Dale will go train Afghanis who don't know a lick of English, don't know how to wear sandals, don't know how to fire a gun. But when the bullets start firing, he goes 9 out of 10 will hit the deck. And one of them will just turn into fucking Ulysses S. Grant. There's like a dormant gene in like 1 out of every 10 of us.
That's the guy who's coming with us.
Well, and that's the thing is like Dale's talked about that so many times about how some of his Afghanis they just rise up and you're like, dude, this guy could be like in a fucking special forces unit in the United States. I feel like that's what we're seeing with Zelensky. You're seeing a guy that just the flip switches.
But and the thing is
flips.
too, if you think about it,
the flip switches, the switch flips.
The flip Trump was a reality TV star. Ronald Reagan was a professional actor. Okay. But Zelensky was a comedian. He did stand up. If you think about it, to be a stand-up comedian, you have to be quick on your feet and you have to be tough because you have to deal with hecklers. You have to react quickly to what your audience is doing and all. That's different than acting.
And
you don't get a second take. You're on stage live.
And there's just like an acceptance of like nihilism. Like if you're going to make a living being a comedian, there's party that's like, I mean, nothing's real. Might as well laugh. There's party that's like, fuck it. Like, yeah, give me a flak jacket.
Yeah, and so people are like kind of laughing at it because of that. Emily's like, the dude was a comedian. I'm going, yeah, the dude was a comedian. You know what it takes to get up on a stage and do stand up? I mean, that takes some mental toughness and a quick wit, and he has demonstrated those things. It's like history walked up to him and tapped him on the shoulder, and he was like, okay, yeah. Now that you mention it,
yeah, you can't on one hand, congratulate Reagan on going toe to toe with the Soviet Union and bringing it to a bloodless end, and then mock Zelensky. It doesn't. No. You can't.
I mean, and the thing is, Reagan. I never believed that Reagan was running anything.
No, probably it was Raytheon, but
yeah, Reagan was a trained actor. He was hired to play the governor of California, and then he was hired to play.
Shout out Mopey.
Yeah. And then he was hired to play the president of the United States, and he did a very competent job at those roles. But he was really the front man for these corporate interests the whole time. Uh,
100%.
and uh, and the thing is, the Republican Party put George W. Bush in, hoping he would be a similarly useful tool. And W was his problem was he had the delusion that he was actually running things.
Yeah.
He wasn't listening to these guys. He had his own guys that he decided to listen to, who were kind of fruitcakey. And there was a tension the whole time he was in office between the old guard and these PNAC people that had George's ear. Uh, and then, of course, Trump comes along and he doesn't listen to anybody.
Just fuck. I'm listening to no, yeah, that's
the
yeah,
white noise in my ear.
yeah, dude. That's some true madman. Jesus fuck. Yeah, I don't know if Trump would be better in office right now.
He wouldn't.
I'm not sure it would. I mean, you know me, I'm an unabashed Trump liker, but man, I don't. You could have his general saying, "Great news! We found out that there's this tritium circle that's been going on for 30 years. Their nukes don't work." He'd be like, "Good, hit him hard." Be like, wait, no, that's not the point of this. The point is we don't need to hit him hard.
Well, I don't
But
think he would have. I don't think he would have done that because Russia was his benefactor at
yeah,
that time. They were the only people left who would own him, who would loan him money, and so he obviously didn't want to do anything to hurt Russia.
Tim Dillon had a great point. He goes, "What would you do if Trump? What would Trump do if he was in office right now? Trump would probably start bombing Kyiv too.
Yeah,
Really,
that's what I think. Honestly,
probably would have Pincer attacked him and said, "Let's do it together."
yeah, he would be he wouldn't be helping to attack Russia. He would be helping Russia to attack Ukraine.
He'd be, we're all worried about China taking Taiwan. Trump would be like, "Now's the
Mhm.
time we move on Cuba. 60 years too late." But
And that's there's an interesting thing for you too, is that Putin may have just done the whole world, and especially us, a serious favor in setting a very poor example for the Chinese in case they want to move against Taiwan.
that's actually what I brought up yesterday. I had on a space warfare expert who's actually Brandon Weichert, who's actually going tomorrow, I think, to like brief the USAF on like they bring him in all the time to like brief the Air Force on shit. It's crazy. But that's one thing he and I were talking about yesterday. I was like, doesn't this seem like if this doesn't go global thermonuclear, this is actually almost sort of like an inoculation. This is almost sort of like a vaccine against outright invasion. Obviously it doesn't matter when the United States does it in 2003 because we're America. But like I say that facetiously, but like there was such an immediate and coordinated response to this that you've almost kind of fucked Xi.
Mm-hmm. And also the Chinese may be looking north now and saying, well, they've always had an eye on Siberia too.
Oh
And
yeah.
Siberia is now the more desirable real estate because of global climate change and the weather patterns. So they may be looking at Taiwan defended by a strong enemy whose nuclear weapons actually work, versus Siberia defended by a weak enemy that can't even invade a country that is right next door, full of their own people.
2022 bingo card. The U.S. Sino alliance that takes on Russia. I'll suck my own dick if that happens. But you're right. No, Claire Lopez, CIA veteran who comes on here all the time. Her thesis was actually about the Siberian natural resources, the mineral, the oil, the natural gas, and the timber. China might be looking at that going, yeah, fuck Taiwan. We'll hit that in 2050 when America collapses under its own weight. They might be looking at fucking northern Russia right now.
Oh, I seriously think that's probably.
And would the world even oppose it right now?
Oh, I doubt it seriously.
Oh God.
And they would just say, look, this is where the asshole Mongols came from, that we had to build a fucking wall about and all that, and it's like we're getting ours back finally.
They could come out right. Xi could come out right now with Ukrainian their Ukrainian colors on and say like Slava Ukraine and like go invade Russia, and we would cheer it on.
Yeah.
I would join in just for the meme. Is there any way that could? Yeah, no one could plan that far ahead, right? I guess
Because honestly, I think the Chinese hate the Russians a lot more than they hate us.
probably.
You know, because they have history.
Yeah,
We really don't. I mean, they hate the British because they have history, but the U.S., it's like,
they hate us because we're hegemons. But yeah, you're right.
yeah.
There's no like sort of
But on the other hand, they are too. So it's like,
yeah.
but we're like, you know, we're not in each other's hemispheres, and we're, you know,
Maybe that's the
it's like,
move. Maybe that's the move. Maybe we want to push China into fucking invading Russia. Maybe help them out a little bit. Be like, hey,
yeah,
well,
or at least stand aside and say, that's
yeah, kind
interesting.
of just interesting.
Yeah,
Dude, I don't know.
don't massacre too many civilians while you're up to that, but yeah, otherwise,
Yeah,
have fun with the natural
you
resources.
go wild. Yeah, and maybe we'll start. Maybe we'll take Mexico. Fuck it. You guys take Alaska. We'll take Mexico. Or you guys, no, we'll take Canada. You guys take Siberia. We'll take South America. You guys want Taiwan? Maybe this truly does just go into like a bipolar world. But then we're right back at 1945.
Well, that's true too.
That's a, right. It would be helping China take down Russia. That would be Russia helping us take down Japan. And as soon as the war is over, we're both grinning and shaking each other's hands, like, no, we're friends. Fuck.
Well, the thing is, on our side too, you got to ask who would be all that upset about it. Because if it turns
No
out that
one would
Russia's
give a
nuclear
fuck.
weapons, if it turns out that Russia's nuclear weapons actually don't work because they haven't been maintaining them, then you basically got us and NATO on one side, and
China.
China with like what 350 warheads and no demonstrable desire to expand much beyond its traditional boundaries. Well, except they consider Siberia to be in their traditional boundaries. They would like to take.
Give them Russia.
Yeah. Um, I think that the Chinese would take Siberia in return for leaving Taiwan alone.
I
It's a
think
lot.
most of the world would probably like sign off on that.
Yeah, it's a much bigger territory, and I think that they would go, well, and especially since the weather patterns are moving to where northern properties are probably going to have better climates, then that would be a better investment than risking a
Sure.
lot of treasure to try and get Taiwan back.
I mean, you're in a world right now where invasions never kind of like smiled upon, but right now we're in this like hyper anti-invasion primed mindset. So not only could you go along with that and not take Taiwan, because taking Taiwan today is harder than it was 30 days ago.
Yeah.
Would anyone even bat a fucking eye if you went in and fucked with Russia? I don't think we'd cheer it on. And hell, we might even be like, go in there. Let's see if the nukes work.
Yeah.
Get on in
Well,
there.
I mean, the whole population of the Siberia, which is the size of Canada, is probably like maybe Toronto or something. It's just you don't have a lot of locals who are going to get you know displaced and all the way that I mean, Ukraine actually had a very vibrant, self-contained, functioning economy. It's if you've seen any of the videos. It's like I saw this one video showing a tank ambush and all this, and what was striking about it was how normal the landscape looked like. It's like this could have been a scene out of uh, rural America, and
Yeah.
at the outskirts of any moderate sized town where you've got the railroad yard and the
Mm-hmm.
tank farm and all this, and it's like this is just in a subdivision. It's just like
Yeah.
it looks just like America. Uh, so Siberia does not look like that. Siberia looks like a bunch of fucking snow. And
What if Russia invaded? What if China invaded Russia?
I mean, I don't think Russia could hold it.
No, we're certainly not coming to their. Well, at least with Ukraine, Russia's like not entirely sure, right? With
Well,
Taiwan, China's not entirely sure.
well, we are giving Ukraine weapons
Sure,
and
we are bolstering them.
advisors and all. Who do we give the fucking weapons to in Siberia?
I don't think we would.
No,
I think we would
there's no
just.
one to give them to. There's nothing. All they got to do is cut the Trans-Siberian Railway, and they cut the country in half.
What if China invades? We need to come up with Roger and I are going to create our own think tank. I mean, our original proposition about a year and a half ago admitted it was a little rough around the edges. It was a thermonuclear warhead to every home. It was our early work. We were a little headstrong. I think this one's a little more thought out. If China invaded Russia, and we kind of all agreed, hands off Taiwan, you guys have Russia. We're not going to arm Russia. We don't give a fuck. Ukraine, I feel like Ukraine would probably go in and take a little bit of Russia just kind of as fuck you.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd take a little chunk.
Well, they're taking Crimea back. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
give them half a chance. They're in fact, I've seen a couple of analysts already say by the time this settles out, it's going to be pre-2014 borders.
Yeah. Fuck. I mean, and the United States would like that. We would want one big, because we could cheer them on and say fuck Russia, and then as soon as they take it, we could be like, we're just turning right on the propaganda and be like the rising China threat, right?
Yeah.
Our defense contractors want that. They're jerking
We are
off
now
to
at
that.
war with East Asia.
Yeah, we always have been. It's fuck.
I mean, if you think about it, if our guys have known for 10 or 15 years
That the
that
nukes don't work.
the nukes don't work anymore, the reason for concealing that would be that it's to our advantage, that everyone think that
That they
Russia's
work.
nuclear deterrent is real. For one thing, that keeps NATO
Bound together.
solidified, because without Russia and the threat that they pose, then some of those NATO states would just say, fuck it, just like, England just departed the EU for similar reasons.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to defend against.
Yeah.
Who are they defending against? Iran? China has never expressed an interest in Europe. That's like, yeah.
And it might be at our advantage now to let China go take Russia. And then we could, as the hypocrites that we are, immediately go, now we need to bolster NATO because there's this massive China empire. I don't know, man.
A lot of Russia's ICBM pads are in Siberia.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, we'll immediately turn on them and say like they're belligerent, as one would expect.
Bad China.
Yeah. No,
you shouldn't have done what we wanted you to do. That was a bad thing to do.
It'll be the Mujahideen. It'll be part 2. We'll go do it. And then we'll say these motherfuckers.
How dare you do that?
Which is, as Kissinger said, to be America's enemy is dangerous. To be our allies is to be lethal. You're gonna really fuck. Well, if we fuck up our enemies, we destroy our allies. Could that actually happen though? Or do you think they maybe not even don't need to do that right now? Do you think they just kind of let Russia further wither on the vine?
I think the most believable scenario is that China takes a big chunk of Siberia. They don't take Russia as a whole.
Yeah,
because
it's too much.
It's too much, and also I don't think they want it. I think they feel that they have a historical claim to a large chunk of Siberia that they think really should belong to China, just like they think Taiwan should, just like they probably think Vietnam should, on general principles, because that's their part of the world, and that's their culture, that's their everything. Fuck the Japanese. That's but I think they think everything the mainland in that corner of the continent belongs to them, and I can seriously see everybody standing by and looking at the walls while they invade Siberia as long as they don't also invade Taiwan. And I can see the Chinese going, well, we really want Taiwan, that Taiwan belongs to us, but uh, we can see that that's a hornet's nest. It's, meanwhile, Russia's just shown that they're a paper bear, and we can just walk in, and they don't have uh, two tanks and an APC to resist us as we march in and just say all of this land and all of this coastline is now ours. And they got like one railroad line that all we have to do is cut it, and they can't get anything in there. So, plus a couple of nice naval bases we can take. So, yeah, and no one's going to say anything because of what just happened in Ukraine. And then all they have to do is not march too far to the west and just say, y'all never really needed all of this crap anyway, and it's ours now. What's Russia going to do? It's like
Yeah.
at some point, the elephant in the room is going to be that none of the nukes work.
Yeah. Yeah. Deterrence works because it's believed.
So, it's at some point that's going to be, especially if it's one of those things everybody knows, but nobody is saying, because I couldn't believe when I ran these numbers. I went from going, well, I've kind of wondered if this kleptocracy is actually bothering to do it, to looking at this and going, no, some asshole just bought themselves a mega yacht by diverting this. That's the only way this has gone down. There's no chance that this maintenance has actually been done. There may have been, maybe for the first 10 years after the USSR fell, they may have kept up some of them because they knew that they had to have some little corner. But then as 5 years went and 10 years went and 15 years went, when they didn't actually need it, then all that is another $250,000, twice a day, $250,000 sitting there waiting to be stolen.
Yeah.
By people who have demonstrated that they will steal anything.
No, I mean, I think it's a genuinely brilliant take, because I've often thought about this, about like that would be like the benefit of like selling nuclear bunkers would be the only time anyone's ever gonna come to you because your product is shit. There'll be
It's
no
too
one to come
late.
to you. Or even better yet, you take their money and build one massive bunker and say, I've reserved each of you a room. And then when they show up, you have the bulkhead door shut. What are they going to do? Shoot you? How are they going to get in?
Or it's like Planet Fitness. You give everyone a nice tour of this 1,000-room bunker, but you sell 1 million subscriptions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And who the fuck's going to come? Because the only time they'd ever find out would be when there would be no one alive to find out. No, so it's a that doomsday stands. That's a brilliant market. It's a brilliant market because you can't get fucked now.
Well, you might get fucked, but it won't be because of anything you did.
But so yeah. So like right now though, they might have all been thinking like, no one's ever gonna. Putin will poison people. Maybe he'll blow up some buildings, blame it on the Chechens. But like, he's not gonna. No one thought, because everyone knows it's mad, right? It's madness. It's mutual assured destruction. You can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, MAD sounds crazy, and it's a cool acronym because it sounds that way. But
It's
it
brilliant.
really, well, it refers to the Nash equilibrium, where it makes the most sense. You set up the situation so that it is in each actor's individual best interest to follow the strategy that is also in everyone's best interest. And this is why we had to drag the Russians kicking and screaming into this in the 60s by telling them, if you build an anti-ballistic missile system, it's a destabilizing thing that messes up the Nash equilibrium and makes it more likely that war will erupt.
That we'll all die. That's what Gorbachev was saying to Reagan in Reykjavik. Was like,
well, Reagan, of course, himself wanted to, was doing all this destabilizing stuff because it sounded good to his minions.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying Gorbachev was saying,
Yeah.
don't build SDI because it's going to result in a high percentage chance of us both dying.
Yeah, they were telling us what we told them 20 years earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, but of
But you'll
course
notice another
we
thing
didn't.
that happened is that nobody who knew what they were doing thought SDI would work.
Of course
And
not.
I think SDI was a bunch of smoke and mirrors behind a curtain for us, for the US, for the US citizens.
PR.
And I think everybody in the know, everyone in power knew that SDI was bullshit and that
Opium.
it would never work and that it was just smoke and mirrors for the masses and that no one in power seriously considered this thing that would actually ever have an impact on anything. And sure enough, that's how it worked out. Now, Reagan himself may not have known that. Reagan himself may not have been in on the joke, but
Like
I'm
Putin.
sure, yeah. Well, Reagan didn't, I don't think Reagan thought for 1 minute he was running the country. He was an actor. He was hired to play a role. He was hired to represent the people who paid for his campaign and who were propping him up. He was a professional actor to the very end.
The
And
evil empire.
yeah, he could deliver a line. And this is why he remained effective even when he was clearly having
Dementia.
problems with the Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
because he was still a professional actor. He had his training, and people say, well, he was a crappy B movie actor. It's like, no, he was not a bad actor. He wasn't a great actor, but he was a competent actor. And his greatest role was as president of the United States.
I
But
mean, that is the ultimate role.
yeah, he didn't play it in a movie. He played it for real. And I got to give him props that he actually probably went into it with clear eyes, knowing what was expected of him. Uh, and much of the trouble with GW was that he didn't know that he wasn't a trained actor, and he didn't know he was supposed to be the public face of these
I'm I'm
interests.
I'm reading uh Family of Secrets right now by Russ, I think Russ Baker, all about the Bush. He calls it the House of Bush, but I mean, but really, it's you realize just how much, and they do draw that distinction. G Dubs actually thought he was the shit,
Yeah,
and it was like,
yeah.
dude, you
Well,
are.
because his dad was.
Well, and his dad was pulling strings for him the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, his dad was one of the people who was running Ronald Reagan, the actor who was the
Yeah,
front
his
of the thing.
dad ran up the CIA. His dad fucking killed JFK. His
Yeah.
dad for 20 years couldn't recall where he was the day JFK got shot. And then, oh yeah, I forgot. I was in Dallas. I mean, at a certain point, you gotta almost love the demon. You're like, oh, you fucking fire breathing, winged, cloven foot demon, you.
Yeah. Can you barbecue this rack of ribs for
Yeah,
me?
but
I
at a
bet you
certain
can do it.
at a certain point, you're almost just like, can you breathe fire? Just, I mean, demon from
Yeah.
hell, but like, yeah, no, his father Prescott, and then with Poppy Bush. No, I mean they actually
But
were ruthless operators. G Dubs thought
yeah.
he was the shit, and he was a
He thought
jackass.
he was his dad,
No,
and
total
he wasn't even
jackass.
he wasn't even Ronald Reagan because he wasn't a
No,
trained actor.
no,
Um, but this is the I think Putin is more like Bush Senior.
Poppy, yeah,
He was Poppy because he was uh
intelligence.
intelligence operative and all this stuff. He's actually running shit, but the problem he's got is that he's now in an information vacuum because he's constructed a little bubble where no one is willing to tell him anything he doesn't want to hear.
Mm,
And that's a problem that affects every authoritarian regime eventually.
yeah.
But Russia is now in the very advanced stages of that.
So it almost seems like it almost seems like Putin was going for like a USSR point two, like in
Oh,
baby
that's
steps.
definitely what he wanted.
Oh, 100%. I don't think there's any doubt to that. And ironically, it might actually lead to a further collapse. It might lead to 1991.2, not
Yeah.
1945 or not 1917.2, rather 1991.2.
Yeah. It's not going to be good to be a Russian for the next few years, I don't think.
No.
Uh, even though it's not as did you see Arnold Schwarzenegger's video?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you should check it out. It was it was excellent. And of course, Arnie has many, many fans in Russia.
Mm.
And so he recorded this about 10-minute monologue where he said, his first hero was a Russian bodybuilder who was like the strongest man in the world. And he had tickets and went to see this guy and got a backstage pass. And he was 14-year-old. Arnie was 14 at the time. And this Russian bodybuilder shook his hand and said, and was very friendly toward him and very encouraging. And he said he put a copy of the guy's picture up on his bedroom wall. And Arnie's father was enraged. He said, "No, find an Austrian or a German
Mm.
hero. This is a Russian." And he was just like, "No, this is the guy. I want to be like this guy because he's good. He's good at what he does. He's friendly. He didn't look at me as a German or not. It's like he encouraged me to do what I wanted, and all this." And so, he goes on for a couple of minutes about how he has the greatest love and respect for the Russian people, and despite the fact that he grew up in Nazi Germany, literally, or well, his father was a broken man because he had been a soldier in on the Eastern
Wehrmacht.
Front. And so, it's very passionate and very well done. Uh, and I forget how I got onto the subject of it, but yeah, definitely look up the Schwarzenegger video because it's very impressive. And it's been making its way around despite the censorship in Russia because he has a huge base of
Uh, I
fans.
I think you brought it up saying it's going to be a really tough time to be a Russian person,
Oh,
which is like
yes.
the other side of this we don't see. I mean, there's no, I mean, there's you can't, there's no.
He was trying to warn them. This is not the Russian people's war. That was
Well,
why
that's
I was,
yeah. It's like it's
yeah,
very easy and rightfully so to look at what's happening in Ukraine, and your heart has to bleed for them. What you're forgetting is that a ton of people in Russia right now are kind of being held hostage by.
yeah,
I'm sure there's a number that are like fuck yeah, go do it, but there are a lot of people there that are just fucked and that they're
yeah.
protesting and they're getting rounded up.
Well, the other thing is one of the biggest, they say one of the biggest forces for social change in Russia is mothers. That when the mothers get out on the streets, then you're done. That is something uh, and that in fact that was one of the things about the Ukrainian soldiers who the Russian soldiers rather who went into Ukraine till they were told they were going to be liberators, and instead there's this woman who looks like your babushka who is speaking Russian and looks like your grandmother and is putting the sunflower seeds in your pocket and saying, "Keep these so that when
Yeah,
you
we
die,
die.
something
This
nice
sunflower.
will grow." And
Yeah,
it's like, and how this is affecting these kids because this is not what they expected. uh, then uh, you know Arnold was trying to warn them that your leaders have led you into a very dark place,
yeah,
and we know that it wasn't you, it was them, but you are going to pay a price for this, just as my family did.
yeah.
And so yeah,
No,
it's going to be, yeah, right. It sucks a lot right now to be Ukrainian, but it's going to suck a lot to be Russian in the near future, I think.
yeah,
Maybe not quite as badly or in the same ways. I don't think anyone's going to be bombing their cities,
sure,
but uh, they, red lines are a possibility, and that whole thing.
absolutely.
Um,
Um, and again, Tim, Tim, Tim Dillon, Tim Dillon goes. You know how Biden brings those approval numbers up right now? He goes, we must. He goes out with representatives from other defense contractors and goes, we will not let them take Kyiv. This is our Berlin. Everyone's going, what the fuck? And he goes, and Biden just rolls in there with the force of God, and we just start fighting, and then we annex Ukraine. That would be such a madman move that even Trump supporters would have to be like, that's fucking nuts. If Biden just annexed Ukraine right now, I mean, fuck it, I'd start wearing a Biden shirt. Or if Taiwan
yeah,
invaded China. But on a more serious note,
yeah.
that would be fucking. Again, I'll but more realistically, yeah, I've kind of had a hunch based on nothing other than just my own mind. I feel like maybe Putin already has tried to launch nukes and it hasn't worked. Maybe that's what the Kinzhal was. Or
That's what I tend to think, because otherwise there's no reason to use that
why would
weapon.
you use it? Yeah, you'd use it if America came out and said we're considering a no-fly zone, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just busting your nut early for no reason. Or there's a you got to remember. I mean, humans are always vying for power, whether it's fucking in your neighborhood or at the nation state level. There are guys in Russia right now who are going, hey, CIA, the great Satan. Now they're saying, hey, Ivan, you want to be the new president of Russia? And now you got a bunch of guys, kind of surrounding Caesar right now and going, hey, Mother Russia, but I want to be the top dog. That's just the
Yeah.
oldest human. That's the oldest human, aside from sex, but like, that's the oldest human drive there is to take the top spot.
Unfortunately, they missed March 15th. It
I
would have
know that
been,
would have been so fire. That would have been such great PR. They could have memed the shit out of that.
yeah.
I don't
It's
know,
in,
man.
Instead, we got the picture of Putin at the one end of the 3 mile long table with the generals at the other, and the caption that says, "Yes, Vlad, that table does make your penis look small."
It does. So I was reading. Apparently, it's the distance is so that the security has a chance to intercept you if you just charge them.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's obvious. It's not COVID because he's been in closer proximity to other people.
it's also
He's
not
obviously most afraid of the people in his own inner circle
well.
at
That's
this
the thing
point.
is, it's not the U.S. for all of our flaws, though many. I mean, Biden can sit around the Joint Chiefs, and there's no
Yeah.
concern that right. It's even with JFK, they probably did kill, but like even with JFK, so maybe that's not the example, but like Bush, Trump, whatever. As much as a lot of the guys in the intelligence community hated Trump, there was still never. At least that's what we do have. There's somewhat of a peaceful power, somewhat.
Yeah.
You don't
Well, that
have that in
was
Russia. I think Russia's still by
yeah.
the iron fist.
Well, that was one of the things about January 6th was that, obviously some of the people in the Trump camp thought that the military would come to their aid.
Yeah, and no,
The
and they
military,
didn't.
and they made it clear very early on, this is civilian matter. We're the military. This is
Yeah,
the United States. It is a religion among those guys that you don't fuck with
peaceful,
civilian control.
peaceful transfer of power. Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
That's why there was more people in DC, more soldiers than at the time I think we had in Iraq. Yeah, that is something for all of our flaws we do have. I don't think you have that on Russia. I think you've got the guns on your own men the same way you do at the people outside the gates. It's
Mhm.
still very much, yeah.
It's a very Machiavellian situation where nobody trusts anybody and it's all about calculation, and there's no fundamental baseline.
And that system can only thrive so far. You can only go so
Mhm.
far between there's uh David Hoffman had him on here before. I think he's the author of The Dead Hand. I had him on here to talk about his book, The $1 Billion Spy. But he talks about that as the hidden hand of communist dictatorships, much like we have the invisible hand of the market, which just does whatever.
Yeah.
The hidden hand of the communist dictatorship is that like with corruption and with everything being at the barrel of a gun or a polonium tip, you can only ever grow so much because those very actions will cause things like a a a functional nuclear deterrence to instead turn into teak floors, right? So he calls it the invisible hand of like
Yeah.
totalitarian dictatorships. It can only ever grow so far. You give your guys a jet, they're going to leave for America. It's like a weird, there is sort of like almost like a glass ceiling, right? I don't know, man. Now this all goes out the window if there's a tactical nuke in this evening.
Yeah.
Fuck us. That's gonna completely cut our
Well, I
think tank
mean,
off at the
this is
knees.
why I said I came into this and said I'm not asserting this. I wanted to kind of bounce it off of you to see what you think,
No, I
because
I think it's
it
brilliant.
it didn't even really hit me as a hard thing that had to be taken seriously until a day or two ago when I ran the numbers on how much all this shit costs and how it's broken down, and also how it's distributed in the process of doing the maintenance and how few people are involved. So there's not a lot of people you have to corrupt, and the amount of money waiting to be picked up from that table is just mind-boggling. Now, there's probably more in other places, but this is just whoever has access to that, whoever has the authority, asking a Russian oligarch to not pick up that money and put it in their pocket and spend it on yachts and shit is like asking a crack addict not to pick up a key of crack. It's just
Yeah.
like, you know, here's it's just they're
I've
gonna do it. It becomes a habit. How do you at a certain point you can't help yourself. You're just gonna do it because you're not even doing it because you need the money anymore. You don't get where any of these guys are because you needed that last
no,
million
it's
dollars
just
that you stole. It's just because you see the opportunity and your instinct is to take it. Well, when
yeah,
you've got a whole country that is being ruled by people who are demonstrably like this, what are the chances that this maintenance is actually being done?
yeah, yeah. And
So,
I mean, like through the podcast, I know a guy who did like beef business in Russia. I don't know, like 2000s or something. And he talked about just how corrupt it was, just traveling, just pay. Everyone has to get, you got to grease all the palms
mhm,
in to build. They wanted to like build a new factory. They're like, hey, we want to set up a bovine plant here. You'll be part of our international division. And everyone along the way was like, you got to pay this guy, you got to pay that guy. And eventually, this guy I'm friends with was like, sat down with them and was like, if you guys just all agree that like we don't need to like grease your palms, you'll actually all end up making more if we can just build this factory. Like, let's say you
mhm,
hypothetically, obviously the numbers are not, but let's say hypothetically you all get $1 worth of bribe. If we just don't do the bribes, like you'll all actually end up taking home $2 each. But it was just
mhm.
like, I can't trust the other guys not to do it. So fuck you, give me the dollar. And it was,
Yeah.
so they eventually ended up not building it. They're like, all right, man. I mean, yeah, of course that's gonna, yeah, who the fuck's gonna know? Especially when it's all compartmentalized and it's all, then you have actual just security clearances. Who the fuck's gonna know you're down there at the tritium gas? Fuck out of here.
Yeah. And there are other industrial uses for tritium. So it's
Sure.
not, yeah. So,
It's not something like a nuclear sub where like it's very clear if it's working or not.
no.
Yeah. Maybe that's it, man.
And maybe our guys have known for 10 or 15 years and they have their own reasons for not having let anyone else know, like keeping NATO close.
There's no above ground testing, so there's no fuck. I hope ours work.
Yeah, like I said, I tend to think that ours probably do because our grift is a
We have a different
different.
grift.
Yeah, our grift is you actually do the work, but you just overcharge for it.
Yeah, our grift is that like you can get, we will give you F-22s and B-2s and Abrams tanks. We'll
They will
build
fly,
we'll build you
and
the aircraft carriers. It's
but
just
it
gonna,
just
the
it's
app,
just
the
going to cost you an arm and a leg.
hammer's gonna, that fucking new hammer's gonna cost you 100K. It's a titanium
Mhm.
carbide, whatever. Fuck off, give me the money. Yeah, we have a different grift.
Yeah.
It's more,
So
it's a more evolved grift. It's still a grift.
yeah, because it ends up with the public works actually getting done. They just cost a lot more than they would have if in a more honest system.
And it allows us to beat other countries over the head to expand our grift.
Yeah. Because let's
God,
face it, we don't have troops calling their mothers and saying, they're giving us MREs that expired in 2015.
yeah, we do. No, we do. We do it just enough,
Yeah.
just enough that you'll shut the fuck up.
And we are actually driving our APCs around every month to make sure the rubber stays exercised in the tires and stuff like that. If there's a maintenance schedule, we're actually following it. And there's documentation,
because we know that this whole grift can only work if we have the ability to beat the rest of the world over the head. We got a good thing
Right.
going here, boys. We got
Yeah,
a good
that's
thing
part of
going
it.
here. Yeah.
Yeah,
God.
I mean, and part of it too is like, in our in our system, almost everything is double checked by
Sure.
pathways that are hard to fool.
Yeah.
So especially things like calibrations and maintenance schedules and all tend to but in Russia you have a shortage of personnel. They don't have the surplus anything to do that. So it's sort of like, really, you have uh someone's been hired, they've been contracted to supply new MREs, and they can make more money by putting the new ones on the black market and leaving the old ones in the stocks for the troops. Because, well, I mean, let's face it, when's the last time we were in an actual war? Who's going to notice? Oops.
It's I kind of have this like running idea that like everything's predicated upon there's not going to be another war. So it's like, no, dude, it's not just that the nukes don't work, the MREs don't work.
Yeah.
maybe that's the upside of America's endless wars is
Yeah, we know there's going to be another war
because we're going to start it. It's
probably.
It's it's coming. I can give you the date it's going to happen. It's about a year and a half from right now. I can tell you the evening we're going to do the first strike against our own barracks dressed as guys in burqas. But like, no, it's maybe that is our total war. That is our endless wars because no one ever doubts whether or not our stuff works. They're too busy chastising us for using it.
Yeah.
God, we really are just monkeys that stand upright. I mean, we really are just pigs. I mean, Homo sapiens. I mean, like, part of me is like, I'm on this iMac with this Sony camera, and we're talking in real time right now. It's just part of it's just like, it's so. And the other half, it's like, oh no, our grift works. We'll build the nukes that can kill us all tomorrow, but we're going to take a little for ourselves. See, these idiots don't even build the nukes; they just build the yachts. We build the nukes and the yachts.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such just a hair. It's just such a hair less incompetent. Oh my God.
Yeah. We just bankrupt our society, and that we move the problem elsewhere.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the bombs work, and
hey, if Russia can't get a functional nuke into Kyiv, don't worry, we'll fucking do it. We'll make sure a nuke goes off in Kyiv. Don't worry, it's happening. If they don't get the party started, we will. Well,
on that happy note.
On that fucking happy note, Raj, let's wrap this one up. Everybody, as always, links will be in the description. Get Roger's book on Lulu. It is my favorite book, and we actually did a little inside baseball. I won't give it away. We did drop a couple hints with perhaps Reagan. And very last note, actually, I was going to say the only other alternative to the way we're acting right now would be something has happened in the last 30 years, some extrapolation of SDI, where some technology on par with Mopi and what Mopi did. We have something that is just airtight. I tend not to believe that's what the reasoning is, but that I don't think it's a 0% chance. It's a non-0% chance that we have something that we've kept secret that can neuter. I don't know what it would be. I don't know how it would be possible, but we do have a neutering defense net.
I think it's much more believable that we figured out that the Russians have sabotaged their own bombs and
100%. Yeah.
work anymore.
Yeah. Occam's razor would be that they sabotaged their own shit and that we funneled our own SDI money into our own penthouses instead of some hyper high level chest. No, fuck that. No, see, they grift too much. They get high on their own supply. We know
that's it.
We know not to. We really are just fucking drug dealers, but at just a national level. God damn it.
Yeah.
God damn it. God damn
it. I feel like the part at the end of his video where Andy asked me, it's like this, your story doesn't seem to hold humanity in very high regard. And I just said, yeah, it doesn't.
No,
Anything else?
it's called reality. It's called reality. I mean, come on. Our world peace is predicated upon thermonuclear Armageddon.
Yeah.
Our world peace is predicated upon if we don't have it, we have hell.
Yeah. If you try to blow us up, we'll blow you up better.
There's something so beautiful about them, that most childish lesson, to do unto others as you want to have done to you, is applied at the level of hypersonic orbital thermonuclear warheads. What you want to have
Yes.
done to you, you should do to others.
And I like the way you just called both the Buddha and Jesus Christ childish.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here at TPC, our arrogance knows no bound. I meant childish in terms of like one of the first things you
Like
learn
a
at the
child
time.
should be able to figure this out.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, really, right? It's the most basic, what goes around comes around. It applies from like kindergarten all the way up to like reentry vehicles. Do unto others. Until we find out Putin doesn't have any, and then we're just like, then we just put on the brass knuckles. Okay, March 20th, 2020. Roger and I call it China and America. No, China will go in and take Russia, and we'll be arming China. That happens before this year ends.
Oh, we won't have to arm China. They're fine.
They're fine. They're the second biggest spender.
Yeah.
And I think there will be an internal coup against Putin. That's not really a hot take, but I feel like we're going to be seeing some like Saddam video of Putin by the end of the year.
I would not be surprised at all.
I mean, seriously though,
In fact, I'd be surprised if we don't.
I think that happens before 2023.
Yeah, I don't think Putin has the self-knowledge to actually just resign and walk away from it at this point. I think he's too invested in it. He is alienating and pissing off so many people that despite the risk to them, it seems like eventually, if it isn't successful, there's going to be at the very least an unsuccessful putsch against him, like there was against Hitler.
Yeah,
and it won't be hidden. It'll be messily public because Putin will want to make an example.
Yeah,
like Hitler did. Because Putin is turning into Hitler Jr. right in front of our eyes.
If Putin grew the toothbrush mustache, I would kind of laugh. I would kind of laugh if he just leaned a little bit into it. I did see one thing, and it's, I guess, on less of a joking note, and you can kind of take it in your own way. But I did see something, somebody tweeted, said, "You may not like this thought right now, but you should probably pray for Vladimir Putin." And I was like, I mean, you're kind of right. It's not good. That's not to make light of him. Just like you should probably pray for Hitler or Mao or Bin Laden. But I did see that, and it was like a little sliver of like, you probably don't want to even think about this, but you should probably. And I don't like that. I mean, I'd much rather like a bomb, but I don't know. Maybe on somewhat of a human note.
I will hope that he has a quick, painless death rather than a messy, protracted one like Kosciuszko had.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, it's like what Mark Twain said. He was like, "I pray for the devil, because who in the right mind has ever prayed for he who needs it the most?" Now that doesn't mean pray and that he's absolved and he gets to go hang out and on a sunny island. I think he's kind of done some unforgivable shit in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, or not. I don't give a fuck. We're trying to invade Siberia. Fuck if I know. It's Roger and Tommy. There's no logic here. I don't know why I tried to be serious for a second. Fuck it. Nuke the Seychelles. Let's throw everybody. If Biden carpet bombs Toronto, I'll campaign for him in 2024. You want to pay Putin? You want to go madman? I just took out the CN Tower. I will fucking if Biden starts bombing Canada, I'll be on that campaign tomorrow. I'll be like, true madman theory. This guy has the balls Trump never had. Okay, Roger. And on the versatility of this podcast, I'm now going to go from talking with Roger about how China needs to take Siberia to I'm now going to interview a man running for Congress who worked for the NSA for 20 years. So it's I
Yeah.
try to keep my guests compartmentalized, because if they all found out about each other, much like a man with multiple wives, I would probably be killed. That you went on that guy's podcast to run for Congress. Have you seen him and Roger? He and Roger's think tank. Jesus fucking Christ, Roger. We'll resume next week. Everybody get the book. Fuck Russia. Hope the nukes don't work. Shout out to those oligarchs who unwittingly,
Got their own nuts off.
your Italian marble yacht bathroom floor. You don't know it, but you saved the world. you beautiful Russian bastards. All right, I actually got to run. Roger, till next time, man.
See ya.